Hi,
Hello,
I'm Tiana.
I'm Betsy.
So we had a class, the first class, and we had a lot. It was a really interesting conversation. But everyone has to have something that's really stood out for them. So, what stood out for you?
Mine was the Chokoshi culture, where we watched a video on Bridget, a lady called Bridget, and she's from Ghana, if I'm not wrong. And she narrated her story of how some years ago, when she was 7 years, she was sold by her father to pay for her uncle's sins, and that was a culture that is still being continued today, where young girls are being sold to their gods,
To the wives of God.
to the wives of gods, and look, they're being used as
Yeah, baby, Shokoshi means wife of God.
Chokoshi means wives of gods, but they were sold to be the wife of the gods, and they were not allowed to interact with other children from the other community. They were only made to do house chores and
Work at the farm.
And I don't think that was a good thing to expose a 7-year-old.
Yeah.
And the fact that Bridget still went back to her family and she forgave them,
That's courageous.
it's a very courageous deed. Personally, I would not forgive, and
I wouldn't even go back.
I'd have gone and
Forgive them when I'm there in the States.
I'm Gabriel. What stood out for me during the last class was about the self-awareness imperative. Awareness is very important when studying intercultural communication, since it raises our own cultural identity and backgrounds. We get to understand this when we travel to foreign countries where we can get to interact with people with different cultures. And an example is you can see from the story of Judith when she was teaching high school in Algeria, which is a Muslim country in North Africa. She realized something about her religious identity as a Protestant when in December 25th, which was supposed to be a Christmas, came and went, and she taught classes with no mention of Christmas. Judith had never thought about a special celebration of Christmas or how important the holiday was to her. She then recognized on a personal level the uniqueness of this particular cultural practice. And that's what stood out for me during the last class.
Intercultural communication is the study and practice of communication across cultural contexts. So it includes the verbal and the non-verbal interaction. The verbal differs from the non-verbal as it's more unconscious and learned implicitly. It includes facial expressions, silence, eye contact. To avoid this intercultural biasness, one has to avoid stereotyping. A stereotype is basically a prejudgment whereby we judge others on what action they do. The history behind intercultural communication began with the establishment of Foreign Institute Services in 1946. That happened in US, of course. So the field emphasized on nonverbal communication in international contexts, and this led to 3 contemporary approaches. We have the social sciences, critical approach, and interpretative, if I'm not wrong. So this text or this advocates a dialectic approach.